Doing today? It's great to have you on the podcast.
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome. It's great to connect with you, and yeah, I just kind of thought I'd introduce you because you're into personal development, and you help people as you're a therapist as well, and you kind of help people with their energy and spirituality. How did you kind of get into this and talk a bit more about what you do?
Okay. It started long, long ago. I think even as a child, always knew I was kind of a bit different, and I was interested in astrology, spirituality, things like that, even though no one in my family was into that. And I started meeting people, when I was quite young, and I went into it. First, I went into therapy at 19, and then I started studying that in my late 20s, and never stopped.
Yeah, and I think in that field there's it's very rewarding. You're helping people
Mhm.
work through things and connect with themselves and to grow, isn't it? Do you find it's pretty rewarding helping people?
I do. I Nothing brings me more joy, actually. I love seeing people, getting more who they are. I'm gonna say
Mm,
it's not a good way to, well, and it's not a very pretty way to put it, but when somebody really becomes their authentic self and
yeah.
they stop pretending and they start building, the life they really want. They start, just shining their own light. I really love that. And
Mm,
it's true that I use different medium for that. I will use energy healing, neurosciences, life coaching, guidance, a bunch of stuff, whatever, sounds appropriate for me in the moment. I have to stay very free with what I'm doing. So there's a structure, but within myself, I will allow myself to say, that's just what I'm getting through my intuition, or it might be through a very scientific protocol. Whatever comes to me, I will try it if the person's open to it, and then the magic happens usually.
yeah. I suppose with that as well, you kind of go kind of with the flow. You kind of
Hmm.
have to find out what works for each person, if that makes sense, because each person's going to have a different,
Yeah.
say, thing going on, if that makes sense.
Mhm. There's that. Everybody's different, so they will choose, in whatever I'm proposing, they will choose this or that, and usually, of course, I stick with what they've chosen. But I'm constantly creating new things, because otherwise, after a while, I get bored. And I think it's
Yeah.
important when, well, you know that too. You're an entrepreneur, right? We have to create our own things and renew ourselves. Otherwise, after a couple years, for example, at some point in my life, I thought, wow, I've been doing the same things, energy healing, even if everybody's different. It was the same, going through the same motions. And I thought, I have to start doing something else. And that's when I started giving seminars, workshops, creating meditation, because I constantly have to do different things to keep my mind stimulated.
Mm. Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's something that I can definitely relate to, and I'll get different ideas, different things, and you kind of have to have those kind of different outlets and channels, isn't it? I think it's just like your energy when you're in that space, and when you're that kind of person, I think we can kind of find it difficult to do that one just normal thing. There's different outlets to do, and that's okay. Um, and I think it's like the impact that you're having on people is really positive. And I think like how so when you meet clients, like how do you kind of go about working with them, if that makes sense? Do you have like a consultation? You kind of see what they need work on, that kind of thing.
Usually, they will call me on the phone or contact me by email or through my website. And then, a lot of people will ask, what do you think is good for me right now? And so we chat a little bit, and usually it's pretty easy for me to see if what they need to work on is something specific. And then I'll go with neuroscience, or if they're extremely tired and need to be more, grounded, go back into their body. And then we'll do energy healing first and see what we can do after that. Or there's something I created and somebody asked me for it yesterday, and it's really, really spiritual. It's something kind of a visualization where you go and you meet your ancestors, your guides, things like that. Some people will want that, and it also helps you solve things in the matter. So I have, a different, I guess it's a vast array of
Yeah,
possibilities.
that's great. That's great. And it's really nice you have that, that variety and that kind of spectrum of different areas to work in, because you're going to get people, from different, suffering with different kind of issues, so you can kind of work with them on a different scale, or say, perhaps this may work for you. And have you like noticed a difference during like the pandemic and that kind of thing, like an increase in.
Um, I guess especially last year, I realized that a lot of people were having kind of a breakdown.
Mm,
And in a way, it's very positive because to me, it showed that they were waking up to the fact that their lives weren't all, they thought they were. Like,
mm,
okay, I used to go to work every day and do that thing. And they had that routine, which
mm,
kept them busy and kept them not questioning what was going on. And suddenly it stopped and they had to question things after a while. First week, second week, you're like, oh, okay, that's kind of a vacation. I'm home, but I can, tidy things up. Whatever, reorganize everything. But then after 2 weeks, it gets long, and you start questioning things. And I think it's good because our
yeah.
word needs that. And now that it's dragged on so much, I think people are really going back to their own intuition because so many, they have so much information coming from so many people, so many different opinions. You have to go back to yourself and go back
Mm,
to the present moment and really ask yourself, do I want to get a vaccine? Do I don't? Do I believe what I see in the news? Or maybe I
yeah.
don't? Or you really have to go back to yourself. And that's interesting because then it goes back to personal responsibility and,
Mm,
being aligned. So I
mm.
think for all the awful situations that we see out there, there's also that to consider.
Yeah, there is definitely that silver lining, I think, to the situation, and it's definitely given people that space and time to really tune into themselves. I find, and to really think about things. So I've spoken to people who've really kind of created something in this time. Changed the way they see things. As you said, when you're busy just working, it's like a distraction almost, just by being busy, and then you're questioning certain things, or you seeing like the kind of that silver lining to it.
And it's given a lot of time to people to watch podcasts like yours or go on quests, webinars, seminars, stuff where things about inner life and what they really want to do. The other thing is that when everything is crumbling, when you lose everything, then you start thinking, why am I not doing what I really love? Why am I
Mm,
wasting my time in a 9 to 5 job that I don't even like?
mm,
Because it doesn't make sense anymore. And
mm,
that's the other thing that I think is positive is that, they look at your podcast or other things like that, and they're thinking, all those people are doing things they love and they're
mm.
positive and they're saying things that make me think. And that's interesting too, to have that kind of time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you mentioning the podcast. And I think that's one of the things that I think I've learned doing this is that you connect with other people doing different things, and they've been through certain things in their lives, and they've been able to create something or to do something. And you think there's it gives you that perspective, doesn't it? When you hear people's experiences and you see what they're doing, it because I think, like, society teaches you that this is how it is. This is kind of what you're meant to do and what you're meant to be. And I think, there's nothing wrong with doing like certain jobs. That's fine. But I think, if you're not happy in that job, there is a way out. And I think that's like what you mentioned. People are kind of, I think, waking up to that.
Absolutely. I think it's a lot to do with being inspired. And in
Yeah.
order to be inspired, you have to see what other people are doing. And people maybe that, it's helped me connect with people from all over the world, the pandemic.
Mm,
It's helped me do things I never thought I would do
mm,
because suddenly I had to be creative in another way. And that's interesting. And I
mm,
think, that's the huge life lesson, whether we're spiritual or not, whatever space we're coming from. I think this pandemic is really teaching us to be creative.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I've definitely seen that with, what people have been creating, like courses and, content. And it's definitely giving people that, I think, that time to kind of introspect, and to really think about it.
Yeah.
Do you have any like favorite books at all that you like to read or anything like that?
Yeah, you told me you would ask me that, so I have my
Yeah.
books with me. Okay, I'm a very avid reader. I've read my whole life a lot, but I selected a couple books that I thought might interest the people who watch your podcast and that I've really really enjoyed. And one is
Yeah.
the subtle art of not giving a fuck.
Oh
by
yeah, yeah,
Wayne
yeah,
Dyer.
yeah.
I don't know if you read it. It's really, really, really good. I remember, I was reading it in a train and I was laughing out loud. People would look at me. I didn't care. It's a really, really good book. It really teaches you to be more humble, not take yourself so seriously, and have a,
Mm,
much better perspective on life. And so I would definitely recommend this one. If you're a therapist or just, looking to create better relationship, there's that therapist I love, Harriet Lerner, and she's written a bunch of books called Dance of Connection, Dance of Fear, Dance of Intimacy. And I realized when I was selecting my book, I'm all about people who are no nonsense and really give you, concrete advice that you can apply to your life.
mm.
And there's this book that I'm reading right now, The Honeymoon Effect by Bruce Lipton. So Bruce Lipton is a scientist, and so he's better known for all his work on quantum physics and everything. But the honeymoon effect is extremely interesting if you want to create a good relationship, and
Yeah,
it's super nice too. He's a very extremely bright, simple guy, and he explains things in a very good way. So those are my
yeah.
books right now.
No, they're really great books. They look like really great books, and I've seen the first one before. I've not seen the second one. I'll have to check it out. And I, I've Bruce Lipton. I saw a video he did where he's talking about life, and he's a
Mhm.
really like wise guy, and
He's very wise. Mhm.
he talks about childhood and the belief system, and I don't know if you've seen the video what he talks about, but he talks about um, growing up and like seeing your parents and how they're doing things with money and how people kind of adapt to become kind of partly their environment. So yeah, he's a really great guy to choose to read his book as well.
It's very interesting because it's all about, at first, I think the first thing he studies more of the biology field, but it also branched out to physics, quantum physics, and spirituality. And so it's that really enlightened scientist, which to me is the best. It's when you get those people who actually accept that science has to meet spirituality in order for us to grow. And
Mm,
those people are so fascinating. And to me, they're really, mentors, and we should listen
mm,
to them because they show us a way. They have that, scientific mind where they want to test things and prove them, but also they stay open to the unknown. And that's when it gets really interesting.
yeah, I think that's a really good point because like a lot of scientists are like no, it's this, whereas
Mhm.
I mean even like in the medical field I've seen documentaries of people um have like looked at like death and like what's after that. And I mean there was a documentary on Netflix about it where I don't know if you saw it, and it was people who passed away but came back, and they had this experience in this when there was in that void in
Yeah.
between, and then the medical staff are questioning their own work because they only know
Mm.
XYZ amount. But no, it's important, isn't it? Like to have people like that and to listen to good content that's being put out by these people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And do you like have any like mentors or role models like now or growing up at all?
Well, I do like Bruce Lipton. I'm getting to know him better through that book.
Yeah.
Dr. Joe Dispenza definitely is also one of the people who's is a scientist, but also totally open to the unknown, to the spiritual side of life. He healed himself from an extremely important injury when he was in his 20s. And he decided that if he was capable of doing that, he would spend his life teaching about the possibilities of of self-healing possibilities. And that's what he did. So he's giving those huge seminars all over the world, week-long workshops where he does that. And he's amazing too. He gives a
Mm,
really good meditation. It's really, really interesting. If you're into, manifesting and creating your life, being, responsible for your life, Dr. Joe Dispenza is really, really interesting. There's Mother Amma. She's an Indian woman who goes all over the world as well, and she takes people in her arms, and she gives spiritual teachings, and she has many, foundation where she'll give money for education, and the environment, women, and etc. So she's more this is very spiritual. When you go see her, you feel that energy really of love, like so strongly. It's a very, very interesting experience to have as well. Who else do I have as a mentor? Um, hmm. Oh, there's Brené Brown. I love Brené Brown. She's that American sociologist. I don't know if you've seen her. She's all about, vulnerability, and she wrote great books. And I admire her a lot as well.
yeah. No, that's awesome. And I think, it's important to have role models, to like, look up to people and to, see their experiences in their lives and what they're doing. And I think I've heard of Brené Brown. I've not seen her on the internet, but I'll have to check it out. And
Oh, you love it.
it,
Mhm.
yeah, no, I definitely check it out. And I think like in life, isn't it? Like energy and people being able to push through things. It just shows you like the the magic ability that people have. If that makes sense. You must see that in people. Um, that people have the ability to change and to create things. If they want to change.
Yeah, resilience. Yeah, that's definitely what it is. They're resilient. They're showing you that you're not a prisoner of your destiny, that you don't have to just repeat what your ancestors did again, again, and again. But you can really, I think it's just why, well, this is my vision, that we have several lives, and that every time we come back, it's to improve. And so there's no point in repeating the same things over and over again. Of course, we tend to do it, but to change the outcome.
Yeah, that's something I believe in as well. And I think like we can change the outcome if we want to, isn't it? And it's I think people become sometimes creatures of habit, but it's like noticing and really thinking about what it is that what is it that you want from your life and what is it that you want to do. And that's quite impactful, isn't it? It's kind of priceless. If you're able to help other people in the process.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I guess that's the same thing for you. I mean, when you see that you can help somebody become more aware of who they are, what
Mm,
has been going on in their life, make more sense of it too, and suddenly, get to that point where they decide by themselves, because of course it's a personal decision. I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to leave
mm,
that maybe marriage where I'm not happy, or I'm going to fight for it because actually it's worth it. Whatever the decision, if it's the right one for them and it's going to, make them grow, fantastic.
That's it. And I think like it's that ripple effect, isn't it? You help somebody, they have a better life. They may go on to do something or to help someone else. It's those kind
Absolutely.
of little ripples that happen afterwards. And I find that with sometimes when I connect people through podcasting, I'll kind of recommend people sometimes to someone else, and they go off and do something and create, a podcast or a live show or something like that. It's nice because it's connecting those dots, if that makes sense, and then
Yeah,
that then goes on to help people and connect, and it's pretty transformational. So there's definitely a silver lining to the situation that we're in, and sometimes people are saying, "Oh, we're going to go back to the normal," and it's like, well, you kind of that's kind of probably like creatures of habit kind of again. People like to be doing, the
Yeah,
the same thing, but it's kind of how you respond to it, isn't it? I think the situation, people ultimately have a choice.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I feel that way too, that, people need to realize that they have a choice, whatever the situation they're in. And that right now, what's important, I think that connection you talk about is really, really important to realize we're all connected, and that the more people, become aware and decide to create something different, the
Mm.
faster, we're going to get there, and the better.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I was just thinking as well, like, did you always kind of think and know that you would go into this field? Did you
Um,
kind of like in the past, did you kind of have an
Very
idea?
early. Yeah, when I was in my early 20s, I decided I wanted to be a psychotherapist. So I was already into that.
Yeah,
Before that, when I was a child, I wanted to be a writer, but I do write as well. I have a book in the making. We'll see, but
nice.
I write, yeah, as well. Yeah.
That's good. And I think like, you have to ultimately kind of, I think, kind of follow what you want to do, don't you? Like sometimes people go on a path, and they try things out. And I think sometimes, you need to do that, to kind of find out what it is, if that makes sense. So like what would you say to people trying to figure that out, or trying to find, you know, what their kind of calling is, or something?
I think you have to follow your joy,
Mm,
whatever makes you really happy. And a lot of people, what they don't realize is that we have many potential, but there's one that's going to resonate much more. For example, one way I'm putting it sometimes is that we have a major potential and that really resonates. Some people will call it your life mission. And we have minor potentials. Like, for example, I used to be a teacher as well. So I was a therapist, but I was always also working in a school, in a preschool. And why not? It was something I enjoyed. But at some point, they told me, wow, why don't you get a degree? We could really have you full time, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, I think for me, it was a minor potential. I enjoyed it for a couple of years, but that was it. It wasn't something that was bringing me so much joy that I wanted to do it full time. So
mm,
you really have to be clear on that. It's okay to have different potentials. I think all of us have them, and it's good because, like you said, we're going to have different experiences, and all this experience will nourish us. Working with children has taught me so much, but we have to be very clear about the fact, is it something I want to do every day for a long period of time? Or is it
mm,
something I want to do for, a little while, maybe a couple years, but just part time, or and be clear on what really brings us joy.
mm. Yeah, no, I think that's really important, and I think it's you put that really well. And I think I had a similar conversation with someone the other day, and he was talking about success and fulfillment. And
Mhm.
he said, he learned that it's about, being fulfilled. And I mean, success is different for each person, but it's like, like you said, following that joy and that fulfillment of what drives you, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
you could put, a big price tag or, salary on something, but it's not going to be the main driving force, of happiness. People sometimes think it is, and like this is the thing, it's the thing with money, isn't it? Everyone's got different motivations, but I think if you're not ultimately fulfilled or enjoying what you're doing, that money, you're going to get stressed, burnt out, and all the rest of it if you're not really enjoying it.
absolutely. I think if you're doing what fulfills you, money's going to come your way, abundance going to come your way.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're forcing yourself, thinking, okay, then I'm going to get more money and I'll be happier, it never works. You end up spending your money on a lot of things that bring you very temporary happiness,
Mm,
but because you're frustrated. Like, for example, we see so many people, and I remember in the short time that I used to work in a company, you get out of work, you're tired, you're frustrated, and there's a store, and you go into the store because you want to buy a piece of clothes because you're thinking, oh God, I had such a hard day, I should reward myself. get some lipstick, get a piece of clothes, and then you're happy for what, an hour because you got your new sweater, and that's it. And
Mm,
if you're making a ton of money, maybe you'll go and buy a car. Oh, okay, you'll be happy for a couple of weeks because you're driving your car everywhere. And then what? Doesn't make you really feel good. So I think abundance comes in many ways. Money is important, of course, but abundance is not just money. It's really how you feel every day.
mm. Yeah, no, that's an excellent point, and I see that quite a lot. And I think I spoke to some, quite a few people who've been in that place, and I think we've all kind of been there at one stage, and I think it's really kind of like you said, that abundance, and really, like I think it's okay to treat yourself, every once in a while. But if you're caught in that loop where you're going back and then buying something, and then it temporarily wears off, and some people just consistently on that need to buy, to buy, to buy, to do, to do, and those shifts definitely need to take place if you want to change, isn't it? And to be happy and fulfilled, and to, find what that is. And do you think there's like a lot of pressure on people? Have you worked with people who kind of felt under pressure, or burnt out on their job, kind of thing?
I think so. I was watching one of your podcasts recently where you were, or wasn't a podcast, you were just, sharing
Talking,
a little
yeah.
video talk, yeah, where you were saying that people will identify with their job, with their title, and
Mm,
then they'll cling to it because it becomes part of their identity, or they believe it to be. And I so agree with that. And it's a huge, huge problem. It's a trap, really, because you think I'm a lawyer. Yeah, so I mean, that's something. You have to be the lawyer, and then it makes everybody proud around you. What if you don't want to be a lawyer? What if
mm,
it's not really who you are? And I mean, it can be about any job, actually.
mm,
And a lot of people, they're brainwashed into thinking, and even today, into thinking you should be an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor, a top manager, and make X amount of money every month, and then you'll get the car, you'll get the girl, you'll get the boy, you'll get whatever,
mm, mm,
and everything's going to be fine. So the problem is we don't teach children that you have to know who you are, who you want to be, before you know what you want to do.
mm,
And if we did that, they would have a better sense of identity, and they wouldn't latch on to titles that way.
mm, mm. Yeah, no, I think it's so true what you mentioned, and I think it's an important point, isn't it? To focus on. And I think, I mean, I did a podcast with my old teacher the other day, from school, and he's a teacher, and even he made a point and said there's pressure on kids to find out, what they want to be. He said, it's from a teacher. Do 15, 16-year-olds actually know who they want to be? So it's I think, like you said, a lot of people under pressure to work in a certain job or get a certain title, and then people are proud of them, and that's it's great when people are proud of you, but then if you're not actually happy, then you don't want to disappoint people and all the rest of it. I think, especially in certain cultures as well, there's a lot of a lot of pressure on certain people to get into certain jobs or titles. You know, people sometimes might be banished from fact. People can sometimes experience that, but you've got to trust, yourself, haven't you, and what you actually want to do. Yeah, there needs to be more kind of focus around that, doesn't it? Really, to stop it from happening.
It's important, yeah, and people still have those prejudices, around jobs, around certain domains. Like, for example, my two kids are artists, and people will tell me, "Oh, how are they going to make a living?" You
Yeah,
know?
so,
Whereas I'm thinking, that's great. They found their calling, they love what they're doing. Well, they're still studying, and every night when I see my
yeah,
daughter, working like crazy on an art project, and she's enjoying herself so much. And I tell her, my God, you know, you're a beautiful artist, and I love that. I
mm,
love seeing you
mm,
doing what you
mm.
love. And that's what matters in the end. Um, you know, she, in another family, maybe she would have been forced to because they still, you know, they both were good at school. They could have done something else if they wanted to. But what's the point?
Yeah.
You know, what's the point of, you know, oh, you're good at math, maybe you should do that. You know, in France, we're all about math. Like,
Mm,
you know, if you're good at math, you're bright and you can do everything you want. This in itself is already, you know, really flawed. But
yeah.
so they were both good at math. So we could have pushed them, you know, into saying, oh, you could be an engineer, you could be a vet, you could be whatever. But no, they should follow their dreams. That's where they're going to
Mm,
be good. That's where they're going to thrive and be, yeah, and contribute to the world. You know, that's the other way that to look at it, that we never teach kids to look at that this way. But you came here to contribute to the world. And you
mm,
can only contribute to the world by doing what you love. If you force yourself to be an accountant just because it's reasonable, you're not contributing to the world. You're helping a couple people, you know, adding up the numbers and stuff, but a bunch of other people who enjoy doing that could be doing it.
mm.
Whereas,
Yeah.
and I had, you know, somebody come to see me who was like that. He was an accountant and
Mm,
he was making good money and he was miserable because his life passion and endeavor was, you know, theater.
yeah.
And wow.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? When you get people in those positions that, you know, are kind of stuck, aren't they? And I think once you know, attach a mortgage and kids and a house and everything else like that, people sometimes like, you know, can't. You can get out. You know, I've spoken to people who've done it. There are ways out, but you can see how people get so caught up in that web. Um, but I think it's nice that you support your kids in that way and you believe in them and what they do and you support them in what they're doing. I think that's what it's all about. You know, is being a good parent is helping people, supporting them in what they're doing, and not putting your needs of what you want them to be doing. You know, I think sometimes people get caught in that, but sometimes that may be how their parents were with them, then they do the same. And but I think it's really great you support them in that. I mean, being in arts as well. I mean, you can do really well. It's not just about the money, but you know, if they enjoy it, you can still, you know, you enjoy it, and you can still do well in painting. I mean,
Mhm.
you look at how much paintings sell for. So I mean, as well, but besides the point of that, just them enjoying it and loving it as well is what matters. And as you said, that if you love it, then that money's going to come anyway.
It is. It is for sure. And the other thing, I think what helps me do that as well is that I love what I do. And
Yeah.
it's been a, you know, kind of original. When I started doing energy healing in France 15 years ago, people were looking at me like I was crazy, you know. And so I know what it's like to 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 be in a
Mm,
field that nobody understands or trusts. And it worked for me. So why not? You know,
yeah.
there's that. And that helps when you're doing what you love, you stop projecting so much on your kids. A lot of people
Mm,
project because they're frustrated in their own job. They're doing something they don't like. So they think, oh, my kids should do something that I would have loved to do. Well, it's not that clear in their head, but
yeah.
subconsciously, that's what they're doing. My
Mm,
child will have the life I never had. But maybe
yeah.
the child wants something totally different.
Mm. Yeah, that's a really great point. That's a really great point. And it's just so important, you know, for them to listen to themselves and, you know, to provide that goodness for them to do that. And I think, you know, when you start out and you're doing something that's different, as you mentioned, you know, you're going to get people who may think, you know, what on earth they're doing, or, you know, are they crazy or whatever. Or I've had people say, you know, with my podcast and what I'm doing, you know, what's going to come of it, or what's where's it leading to? And it's like some people just don't understand, and that's okay, you know. And it can be a generational thing. It can be, you know, people who just don't just, you know, they got their own way of thinking. And I think, but you've got to listen to yourself, haven't you? Ultimately, and just carry on with.
Yeah, besides, only you can know what your vision is.
Mm,
So, the other day I heard that and I thought it was so true. Happiness is really comprised of two things. It's really enjoying where you are right now, but also feeding your vision. And so, if your vision is that, someday you're going to have your own show, and, because it's something you really, really enjoy doing, and it's going to be
mm,
big, and it's going to, bring you abundance and stuff, why not? And maybe it's your vision,
yeah,
or maybe it's not, and it's something else. And so whatever your vision, those podcasts, if they're making you happy right now, they're leading you there.
yeah, yeah. That's it. It's so important, isn't it, when you think about it like that, and just keep on kind of like nurturing it, whatever it is. And I think that's why I say to people, just keep building on things. It's just keep on building on it and just moving forward, isn't it? And yeah, no, I just thinking as well, like where can people find you on like social media and like your website and that kind of thing?
No, I'm on Instagram, and I have a website with my name. Well, I guess we'll be able to type it
Yeah,
underneath.
yeah,
Um, but mostly, I'm also on Facebook, but I must say I enjoy Instagram the most. I
yeah,
find there's better, you know, it's because at first I started doing photography a lot. That's one of my passions. So I enjoy
mm,
Instagram for that a lot.
yeah,
And also, I find there's more interaction with people on
yeah,
Instagram than on
yeah.
Facebook. So, yeah.
No, that's awesome. And I think as well, like with Instagram, like it's very good for networking, isn't it? There's a lot of genuine people that you can meet on there, and people who
Absolutely.
generally want to help as well.
That's true. That's true. I found that too. There's a lot of kindness and humor. And, right now I've launched a program, and 7 women joined, which is
Yeah,
really,
yeah, yeah,
really super
yeah, yeah,
happy. I'm having a lot of fun with them. And 2 of them, at least, maybe 3, came through Instagram. So
yeah,
this is
yeah,
huge when you come to think of it.
yeah. It's amazing, and I think that's how we connected as well, wasn't it? We connected through Instagram as well,
Yeah.
and it's pretty amazing what people, who you can meet through, social
Mm.
media and Instagram. And you mentioned like your program. Are people able to sign up to that? Like, where can people find, your program and what you're doing?
Well, I advertise a lot through my Instagram. Right now, I have my Instagram in French and the one in English. So right now, the program is only in French, but I'm going to do it in English in the months to come too. So
Yeah, yeah,
I'll advertise for it, yeah, on Instagram and on my website. I guess I'll talk about it. I also have a Facebook in French and one in English. So it's usually, advertised on social media.
yeah.
Mhm.
No, that's awesome. But no, it's been great talking to you, Sophie, and I
Yes.
really appreciate you coming on, and really grateful was able to do this. And I wish you all the best in what you're doing.
Thank
And
you. You too. I'm
no,
gonna, keep looking at those podcasts and see where it takes you.
yeah,
But I have faith.
yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate it. It really, really means a lot. And I can always like promote your content and what you're doing as well. If you ever need me to put anything out there, I'm happy to.
Okay, thanks.
No, you're welcome.